Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where our quest to put orbital satellites for the purposes of communication over absolutely everything continues. In this episode, we are going to be putting an orbital satellite for the purpose of communication over something. So let's go ahead and do that. Specifically, we are going to be putting it over Jool. We do already have one over Jool, but it's in a stationary orbit. So this one is going to be outside of all of the moons and will be just at the maximal sphere of influence for Jool. So this Odd One Mark V is fine. We will bring the extra X-16 fuel tank that we added in the last episode, or the episode before that. I don't know, they're starting to blur together. We've also got 4 Gigantors, which will be plenty. And off we go. MechJeb should be able to launch this thing just fine, which is good because I don't feel like doing a gravity turn, as usual. Those launches are kind of repetitive, and I am very, very grateful that MechJeb can automate that section. Also, maneuver node execution. And in some cases creation, although I almost always modify the node that MechJeb comes up with. Okay, let's go. We are off to Jool. With stuttering, apparently. That's getting exciting. So, in that case, yeah, that's some nice garbage collection they've got going on there. At least that's what it feels like to me. Somebody probably should look into that at Squad. But anyway, off we go. We are currently fighting a bit of roll, it would appear. Why are you doing this, MechJeb? Don't force roll climb. Please don't. Like, just chill on the roll. Just sit right about right here. That'll be fine. Manually adjusting the roll as we go up. We are at 10 kilometers, so, I mean, this is once... You know what? I just realized that I never actually used the monopropellant up in our last launch. I said I was going to in our braking maneuver over Jool, and just never did. Oh well, it's still useful to have along, just because we can fight the pitch when our engines cut out in the ascent stage, so that'll be just fine. I'm actually not concerned about that. Apoapsis of 50 kilometers, there goes our boosters, and they did take out one of our fins as usual. That's fine. They can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and fix our roll, since that did give us a bit of roll. There we go. And our apoapsis is pushing up to 70 kilometers very shortly. And then we'll also be pushing up to 80 kilometers. Well, don't know why I was pointing out 80 kilometers. 100 kilometers soon, which is our orbital altitude that MechJeb is aiming for. But yeah, I mean, as far as MechJeb goes, primarily I use it for node execution and figuring out when to do nodes, just because I don't really like fiddling with it. It can take some time, as the BOP encounter showed, where MechJeb decided not to work. Had to do 2 orbits around before we could get a decent transfer window, but it was fine. Okay, we should probably get rid of our fairing. Go ahead and deploy that. RCS on. Since our engines are currently off, we do not want to be pitching upwards right now. And I'm also going to go ahead and fix our roll a little bit. It's not super important, I suppose, but at this point, I'm just going to disengage autopilot and just burn prograde. That's all we need to do. Just keep burning. Raise our apoapsis, get out of here. Don't care about being in orbit over Kerbin. It will happen, but I really don't care about it right now. So there we go. Burning on out of here. Of course, we need to pass Minmus. I am wondering what possessed me to put this comm satellite into this eccentricity. It must have been a contract, yeah? Like, I would have never done that on my own. It's kind of exciting. I'm like 95% certain that was a contract. I know this polar one was, but that's fine too. Okay, cut the engines, and let's just go ahead and warp towards the Kerbin Escape. We're not actually going to warp exactly to it. Yep, please. No, go away. Go away. Please stop stopping the time warp. Okay, onward we go. And the stuttering appears to be getting worse. After this, I'm definitely going to restart KSP and see if that helps it. Because, yeah, that's kind of getting extreme. Look at that. Wasn't doing that last episode. Okay, let's go ahead and warp directly to the Kerbin Escape. There we go. And yes, I do realize that that's one of those things that Kerbal Alarm Clock would help me with. But like I said previously, I'm not going to change what mods that I have in midstream here. Next time I play KSP, I'll install Kerbal Alarm Clock. So let's just go on and break the sphere of influence here. Fantastic. Okay. Targeting Jewel time. You know the trick. Set as target. And now we're just going to match planes. Mechjeb, are you feeling better? You know, I thought about restarting this game, or restarting the game since Mechjeb was kind of freaking out before, but I didn't. I'm definitely going to be restarting the game after this, though, because this is getting kind of extreme. We'll execute that node. Node in T-minus 168 days. Okay. Well, we don't have probe control, because we have no power, because Mechjeb never extended our solar arrays. And we don't seem to be able to extend our solar arrays. Well, you know what we could do? Nope, we can't throttle up at all. Hang on a moment, aren't we supposed to be able to max throttle and cut throttle without probe control? Because what I was going to do is max the throttle, which isn't working, to generate a little bit of electric charge to be able to extend the Gigantors. But Mechjeb was set up in the Ascent guidance to auto-deploy solar panels, and it has always previously in the past. I think it didn't because I cut it off early. Yeah, okay. So, that's interesting. Mechjeb, can you come off of Smart ASS being on auto? What happens if we abort node execution? Can we throttle up? No. Uh-huh. Well, I could relaunch this thing. We have plenty of money for that. However, there is, of course, the faster solution, and it doesn't really affect anything. So I'm going to go ahead and pop open the cheats menu, because what could go wrong? We'll just do that, and we will extend one solar panel, undo it. There we go. Problem solved. It was supposed to let us throttle up anyway, so we had like multiple points of failure there from my assumption. My understanding is I should have been able to fix that without opening the cheat window. Well, my assumption is we shouldn't have had that problem in the first place, because I didn't disable Mechjeb until we hit space, but I guess it hadn't of... Also, execute that node, Mechjeb. There you go. I guess it hadn't gotten to the deployment yet. But again, I should have been able to max the throttle, because I've been able to do that without probe control before, is just max the throttle, and the engine has an alternator on it, which would have generated a little bit of power, which would have allowed me to extend one solar array, which would have allowed me to fix the problem. So that's kind of what I'm excusing the use of the cheat panel with there. I mean, it feels like I shouldn't have had to do that. Technically, I didn't have to do it. Like I said, I could have aborted this flight and relaunched it, but that's a waste of everybody's time, and I didn't really want to deal with that. So let's just move on, I guess. It is what it is. We've done this a million times, and it was just a stupid mistake. Didn't want to waste everybody's time. There we go. Okay, so we have 100 days until... Whoops. There you go. Accidentally hit the time warp change button. So we have 100 days, well, 70 now, until our inclination change, which will be right over here. 50 days now. We also do have a bunch of asteroids over here, which is interesting. We could put on a Sentinel infrared telescope. Why would I say infrared? Infrared telescope, and map some of these. But that's not the point of this play. So let's just go ahead and keep doing what we're doing. This will be a probably more than... Well, actually, no, about a 7-second burn. That was about right. Okay, and then we'll have about 200 meters per second to transfer with, as usual. Excellent. Okay, home and transfer to target. Create node. What do we get? Looks like we do actually get an encounter. Is it a good encounter? Well, I mean, sure, but what I would really like to do, and to be completely clear, we will have to pay this delta V cost later, but what I would really like to do is move our periapsis slightly outward as far as we can, which at Joule is quite a ways. Oh boy. Okay, right there. Come on back. There you are. Right there. So about 900,000 kilometers. Can we get any further? Whoops. Come on back. Come on back. There you are. Okay. Ah! Come on back. I know we can get slightly further than this, but I'm going to make it very slow and careful. Just one tick at a time. Otherwise, before you know it, it'll be too far. I would like it to be exactly 900 kilometers. But I think that's the cutoff point. So 898 is probably as close as we're going to get. Execute that. And we'll have to pay some delta V for braking later on. The closer you are, the less delta V it takes to brake, so... It's fine though, we've got so much delta V for this. This is far less delta V requirement than going to BOP was. To the point where I think I'm going to go ahead and turn on RCS once we're done turning here. And warping. There we go. And now we're going to warp. Once we get there, I'm going to burn off our monopropellant. We did not burn much of it. Although now I've forgotten the hotkey again. See, that's what happens when I take a 2-week break. Oh boy. I mean, technically it was a 1-week break, but because I recorded everything 2 weeks ago, it's been 2 weeks since I recorded this last. Okay. So it's going to be more than a 1 minute burn. I can tell you that. So let's go ahead and just turn on RCS as soon as we can. I think it is H. Yes. That is correct. So let's burn off all of our monopropellant. Okay. Get rid of that. And I'm going to go ahead and physics warp up for this burn. And we just continue to burn off our monopropellant. Don't need to be carrying all of that everywhere. Might as well use it for Delta V right now. This is, of course, going to be roughly another 17.5 minute burn at 4x time acceleration, so takes a little bit of time to get to Jool. There's no doubt about that. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick look here. Our inclination around Jool will be incredibly close to equatorial, which is perfect. Like, that's about as good as it gets, honestly. Our monopropellant is now burned off, so that'll increase our thrust-to-weight ratio of our nuclear engine incredibly minusculely, but it'll increase it a little bit. Of course, right now we are really only getting flow by these two solar arrays, but having the additional solar arrays is not for the interplanetary transfer stage. That's not the point. Having those is for once we reach our destination and can orient towards the sun. Because orienting towards the sun when we're at Jool also means orienting towards Kerbin. Which, actually, the orientation of the antennas doesn't matter in KSP. But in reality, it would. Okay, so we've got ourselves another 12 minutes here. Our inclination looks good-ish. We may make a very, very minor inclination tweak. We're going to have tons of time. We're going to be going this direction, which, in terms of directionality, is about right. We're going to be going in the same direction as all of the moons, although we'll be... The lathe is actually moving retrograde, which is a little strange. Wait, no it isn't. What am I talking about? All the moons are going the same direction. And we'll be going in the same direction as the moons. It doesn't matter, technically, but we'll be going in the same direction as the moons. Another 8 minutes on this burn. So another 2 minutes on this burn, once you factor in the time acceleration. And ultimately, we're going to have a lot of Delta V left, and all we need to do, once we get there, is a braking maneuver at the periapsis to circularize. And in fact, we can just use MechJeb for that. It's an incredibly simple maneuver. We may have to tweak it a little bit since we are right at the edge. We can turn off RCS, not like there is any left, but we're right at the edge of Jool's sphere of influence, so we may have to tweak what MechJeb comes up with a little bit if it's off by as few as 1 million meters, which at this distance is almost nothing. Anyway, we've got about another 1 minute left in this burn, so once that happens, I'm going to go ahead and create the circularization, and then we'll warp over here. I think... I could be wrong about this, but I think we've got enough time in this episode to completely finish this. So then the question is, what are we doing next episode? Well, the simple solution would be we're probably going to be working our way out from Jool. So we've got one in an inner orbit, inner moon orbit of Jool. It's a stationary orbit-ish. Stationary-ish. We've also got one in orbit around Lathe. So working our way outward, the next one would be Vol, which of course is where we have our rover. And then the one after that would be Tylo. And then we have one around Bop. So then it would be Pol. Of course, this is all assuming that we do not have any contracts for any of those. If we have a contract for anything in the Jool system that we don't already have anything around, or anything at Eeloo, we're taking it. Okay, So, MechJeb kind of failed a little bit. There we go. It was just ever so slightly off, so I did a very, very tiny, like, 0.0001 meter per second burn to get us into the sphere of influence. And then we are just simply going to warp to here. And in the meantime, I'm not going to use MechJeb for this. I'm just going to do a retrograde burn right here. And all we need to do is have... Oop, that was a bit more than I wanted. Just a very, very eccentric burn here. Why is this so eccentric? Like, that's 2.4 million. I think it's just because of the speed. So, we are going to do a second burn here then, in that case. I want this as far out as I can, circularized. So, let's just keep tweaking this while we're warping in. Looks like 2.5 mil is about the furthest we're going to get it. Probably not quite that far. So let's just push it out to... Yeah, right there is about the closest that we're going to get. So let's keep right about there. Looks like 2.45 is the best we're going to get. And our eccentricity is good, or not eccentricity even, our inclination is good, but we're going to do another burn out here, but that is a very, very long time away. So let's go ahead and execute this node, I think. Let's stop our time warp here and execute this node. So we're going to go ahead and rotate over to here, and then continue to time warp our way in. Now that we are roughly in position for the burn. Okay, so the question then becomes, do we have enough time to circularize this? Well, I also want to see if our inclination is exactly equatorial. It's going to be really close. I think it's close enough. I don't think we need to worry about any inclination there. I mean, technically our inclination there doesn't even matter. All I'm interested in is having something that takes an incredibly long time to orbit, which is what we're going to have. Essentially, it's... as far as from day-to-day things go, it's almost going to be a fixed point from anywhere in the Jool system, because this orbit from the periapsis to the apoapsis is like 2 years, and we're going to be raising that. Like, this thing is going to have an orbital period of several years, probably around 5 or 6 years. So that's generally the idea there anyway. But I think once we do this burn, I'm going to have to put a cut in. So I'm probably going to do this burn, which is going to be a short-ish burn, and then put a cut in and time warp around to here, and then we'll just circularize here, and then we'll start in on whatever our next project is. So that's kind of the medium-term plan there. Of course, we do have another 300 days before we are in position for that to happen, but that won't take too long to warp through. We are, of course, warping at maximum speed, x 100,000. I kind of wish for these long-distance missions that they had 1,000,000x, but I get it. That probably causes some problems with their physics engine. Floating point errors and all that. I get it. 150 more days until we are ready to do our burn. Of course, it's only about 60 days until we encounter Jool. We should be able to see it by now. Let's see, I think it is actually behind us a bit and catching up. It should be in this light-colored band somewhere, but I'm not sure exactly where it is. Oh, there it is. Hi, Jool. Fancy meeting you here. It's only like the 90 millionth time we've met. And we will continue to work in the Jool system for quite a long time. Okay, well, it is that time. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put a cut in now. Well, we will be burning this extremely momentarily, but this burn is not amazingly exciting. So I'm going to go ahead and put a cut in, and next episode we will finish up this burn, and we will finish up getting this thing in this extremely wide orbit of Jool. See you all then.